Hello everybody. I'm going to do a review on this Easy Flex Dust Collection Hose by Petrie. I ordered this off Amazon and I believe it was $36.99. Then after shipping and everything it was somewhere around $45. Now this hose is obviously only about 3 feet in length, but the cool part about it, let's see if I can show this, is it will stretch out to about 20 to 21 feet in length and then come back kind of like a slinky to about a 3-foot section. Now I've put a video up on the upgraded hose for the shop vac made by Rigid, and my complaint on that was the inside diameter was so small that it didn't really work too well and I lost a lot of power. Now this particular hose here collapsed is about the identical size of the original shop vac hose on the inside, and when it's stretched out it gets to about 2.5 inches on the inside diameter. So I thought this was a pretty good replacement for that, plus instead of just getting 10 feet of hose I'm getting about double the length, and it's a lot easier. It's going to be a lot easier to store this, obviously, you know, on top of the shop vac or whatnot, in lieu of, you know, 20 foot of standard hose. So I'm going to show what I'm doing to adapt this to my shop vac to give you guys an idea. I'm also going to set it up to where I can use it on my dust collector, which would require changing one hose end, and depending on how it works I might buy another one, because so far this thing's pretty slick. It's heavy, it's got a lot of steel in it, this brass, it's kind of gold in color, and the hose itself, the material, feels to be fairly adequate. So I'm going to switch views here and show you what I'm doing, and then I'm going to mock this thing up and show you how well it works and how far you can actually stretch it out. Okay, here are the two fittings that came out of my original shop vac hose. You should be familiar with these if you have one. I don't know if they have different sizes of hoses. I'm assuming mine would be the large one, but I just want to show what I'm doing to adapt that Easy Flex hose to these original fittings. And once you pull them out, you'll notice on this there's a kind of a coned area and then there's a recess. And what I'm doing is cutting 2 strips of this. This is just a plastic placemat I picked up, you know, somewhere, maybe Target or Walmart, and I cut 2 strips out of the long side, 1.25 inches in width, wrapped both of those around in that recessed area. This one's already been done, and then I wrapped it with some electrical tape just to hold it in place, and you can kind of see that it is on there. And this ends up being about 2.5 inches on its outside diameter. So when I stretch that hose and pull it open, it'll open up and then, you know, work it down on here, and it'll actually kind of clamp down on it by itself. I'll probably end up using hose clamps, but I don't have any here of that size, so I'm just going to put some zip ties on it now and see how they work, and they may work just fine. That way I can go ahead and show you how it works. So with that being said, I'm going to cut the strips on the other one and modify this, and then I'll show a shot of it put together. Okay, here's the completed hose with the ends installed. I'll get a shot of these. I need to make a correction. I was talking about those plastic strips that I was building up this surface with, and I said they were 1.25 inches wide. They're not. They were 1.1 inches. So just keep that in mind if you're trying to use what I said as a measurement, but just measure yours to make sure it's alright. Let me turn the macro on here. Okay, so here's how I've made up the end. Obviously I've got it put in there. This stuff will try to get away from you, you know, you got to kind of wrestle with it, but it's put in there. A couple of the bands are in. You know, I just simply used the zip tie where I cut it off. I took a small file and just went across the top of it to knock that sharp edge off. And this actually seems like it's going to work really well in lieu of a hose clamp, and it's a lot less bulky than a hose clamp. So I'm going to try this, and if I can keep from putting a hose clamp on here, I'm going to do that. And one thing I do want to note is on the end of the coil, it's cut off, you know, and there's a sharp edge there. I took my needle nose and just turned it into a 90 and just tucked it underneath this band here, so now it's not in the way. It can't get to your hand or anything. But I'm going to hook this up to the shop vac and show how it's going to be stored, and then I'm going to actually going to pull my shop vac outside to show you how far it will go, and I'll measure that and tell you what that is. So hold tight. Okay, here's how it's going to be stored on my shop vac. As you can see, you know, it stores a lot better than the original hose. Even the original hose is only, you know, 6-7 feet long, and here's, you know, maybe 20 foot of hose. Beauty of this is I don't have to move my shop vac. I'm in a small one-car shop, and I kind of strung it out, and I can get literally to anywhere in my shop without having to tug the shop vac around. So that's going to work quite nice. So with that being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and flick it on here. It's going to get loud, but I'm going to try to just show how well it sucks on my leg or something. Now, as you can see, you know, that hose I was trying to use, it would do nothing like that. You know, this seems to operate, even with it being stretched out, as well, if not better than the original hose. And with it being stretched out, it's actually going to make that inside diameter of that hose a little bit larger. So it might even work a little bit better. But at this stage, I'm really pleased with this. And if the hose holds up, you know, heck, I can't go wrong if I get a couple years out of it and have to buy another one. If I don't have to tug this big thing around the room with me, and it's always under your feet. So with that being said, I'm going to put this in the doorway and show you how this thing stretches out. Okay, well, I've got it in the doorway here, and I'm going to pull it out, kind of give you an idea how long it will go to. I did measure it. I can get all the way out to 20 feet from the shop vac. It pulls out pretty easily to 18, which is about where I'm at right now. And the last 2 feet, you know, you really have to kind of give it a tug, and if you don't have your shop vac wedged, you know, I think it'd start chasing you around. And that's another thing I didn't test with. You know, my shop vac is wedged underneath my drill press, so it does not move, you know. But if you've got one that's freestanding, you know, depending on how far you get out with this, it may start chasing you, because it is like a big spring. Mosquitoes are out. But you can see how far I'm getting. You know, I certainly couldn't do that with the $40 hose from Ridgid that I purchased, but I'm certainly do it with this I believe $46 to the door. And like I said, you know, it stores a lot more friendly. You can also hook it up to your dust collector if you have one of those with a 4x2.5 reducer or whatever would work for your system. I did buy a reducer for that, but since I zip tied this end on, you know, the one that goes in the shop vac, I'm going to see if I can come up with a way where I can, you know, just switch them back and forth without having to remove that end, or I'll have to buy another hose, which so far I think it's a great deal. So this was from Amazon, 2.5-inch EZ Flex hose. They also sell a 4-inch version. I'm not sure the costs on that. And I believe on the well, wherever it was, the website that actually sells them, I believe they sell 2 lengths. They sell the 3-foot one that goes to about 20 to 21, and they sell a 4-foot one which I believe goes to about 27 or 28 feet. So keep that in mind. I'm real pleased with this now. I thought it was a good purchase. Might give you guys some ideas. Thanks and good luck.